Before diving into this incredible story, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell. Every story here has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. Night was falling gently over the city, casting a veil of shadow over the noisy streets and lit shop windows. In a discreet corner, a small restaurant kept its lights on, a modest refuge for those seeking a moment of calm. Inside, amidst the worn wooden tables and checkered tablecloths, Sarah glided from customer to customer, her usual smile fixed on her lips, but her gaze betrayed a deeper fatigue. Beneath that mask of impeccable service, she carried an invisible weight, a silent wound. That evening, no one noticed her discreet tears, shed in secret between orders. Yet, in this silence, a watchful eye watched. A man, sitting alone at a table, observed this young woman with a gentleness that only those who have known pain can understand. Without knowing it, he was about to leave a word, a simple message, that would change the course of his life forever. Sarah Mitchell was 28 years old. For the past 5 years, she had worked at the Willow Diner, a modest restaurant located in a working-class neighborhood of Chicago. Her job as a waitress allowed her to pay her bills and keep a roof over her head. But the job didn't fulfill her deepest aspirations. Since she was a child, Sarah dreamed of singing, writing, and creating. Music was her secret passion, her inner light. Yet, every day, she had to put her dreams aside to meet the demands of a sometimes cruel daily life. That evening, after a long day filled with impatient clients and sometimes hurtful remarks, she felt exhausted. An argument with her manager, the news of a missed meeting with a producer, and above all, the feeling that her talent would remain hidden forever. Sarah absently wiped away a tear, then hurriedly hid it. She forced a smile when a customer politely asked her for another drink. But deep inside, the pain was dull and powerful. Across the room, Marcus Carter watched. Marcus was 34, a writer and a sensitive man, accustomed to reading between the lines of silence. He had noticed Sarah's fragility, the mixture of strength and sadness she tried to hide. When Sarah disappeared into the kitchen for a few moments, Marcus took a piece of paper, wrote a message, then left the note on his table before leaving the restaurant. He didn't yet know that this simple gesture would change Sarah's destiny. After crossing the small dining room, Sarah retreated to the kitchen, away from prying eyes. The clattering of pots and pans, the pungent smell of spices, the commotion of the other employees. Nothing could calm the storm in her heart. She leaned against the wall, her hands trembling, and finally let her tears flow freely. She had been holding back these tears for hours, between the tables and the forced smiles. Tonight, everything seemed overwhelming. Her exhausting job, her shattered dreams, the loneliness that weighed more heavily than ever. Meanwhile, at his table, Marcus had stood up quietly, slipped a folded piece of paper under an empty plate, and then left the restaurant without a sound, taking with him the silence he had left behind. A few minutes later, Sarah returned to the room. While putting some glasses away on a table, her gaze fell on the small piece of paper lying there, like an invitation. With still trembling hands, she unfolded the note and read these few lines, written in blue ink, simple but powerful. You are stronger than you think. Never let doubts extinguish your light. One day the whole world will see your talent. Take courage, you are not alone. At the bottom, a signature, an admirer of your light. Sarah reread the words several times, letting them sink into her bruised heart. A new feeling, a mixture of hope and comfort, rose within her. The note, written by a stranger, was like a hand reaching out in the darkness. For the first time in weeks, a small smile crossed his lips. Someone, somewhere, had seen past his fatigue, his pain. She put the paper carefully in her pocket, like a fragile treasure. Life, sometimes, depends on a simple gesture. In the days that followed, Sarah felt a subtle shift take place within her. That word, fragile and simple, had become an anchor in her inner storm. Whenever she felt discouraged, she would think back to those phrases, like soft music that soothed her doubts. At the Willow Diner, everyday life was returning to normal. The orders, the hurried customers, the occasional raised voice. But Sarah now had a new sparkle in her eyes. She was slowly regaining the strength to smile sincerely, without a mask. One evening, as the restaurant slowly emptied, Sarah took a break on the small bench by the window. The rain fell gently, drawing shiny beads on the glass. She took out the note, clutched it in her hand, and whispered, almost to herself, "I can do it. I have to believe it." Meanwhile, Marcus, who often passed through the neighborhood for inspiration, kept returning to the Willow Diner. He didn't yet know how to approach Sarah, or even if he would ever dare. But he wanted to be there, silent and present, like an invisible support. One afternoon, while waiting on a table, Sarah caught his eye. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. Marcus gave her a gentle smile, and she responded with a small nod. This simple exchange was like a bridge between two wounded souls. As the weeks passed, Sarah began to write again. In a worn notebook she always kept in her bag, she jotted down lyrics, melodies, and dreams. She even shared a few of her songs on a small local online music group. The response was modest, but for her, every word of encouragement was a step closer to the light. She still didn't know the identity of the person who had left the note, but every day she was grateful. This unexpected message had awakened in her a strength she thought was lost. The road would still be long and strewn with pitfalls, but Sarah had rediscovered the flame of hope. A few weeks later, a special evening was being planned at Diner Willow. The restaurant was hosting a small acoustic concert to showcase local talent. Sarah, who had timidly shared a few of her songs online, had been invited to perform in front of a small audience. She was nervous, her heart pounding, but also filled with new energy. This moment was a crucial step for her, a step toward realizing her dream. Marcus, as usual, was there, sitting in a discreet corner of the room. He had read several of her published texts and was deeply moved by her sensitivity and strength. That evening, he had decided that he would no longer remain a mere observer. When Sarah took the stage, silence fell. Her clear, vibrant voice filled the room, carrying her words with a raw emotion that gripped every audience member. Among them, Marcus felt his heart sink, awed by the young woman's blend of power and fragility. At the end of his performance, to applause, Marcus stood up and approached. In a soft but confident voice, he said, "Sarah, I just wanted to tell you that your music is magnificent. You have a rare light." Surprised, Sarah blushed slightly, but a sincere smile lit up her face. "Thank you, Marcus. You have no idea how much your words meant to me." They exchanged a long look, filled with understanding and silent promises. This meeting marked the beginning of a deep friendship, founded on mutual respect and the desire to support each other in times of hardship. This simple note left one evening, which became a message of hope, had opened a door that Sarah no longer dared to imagine crossing. In the days following the evening at Willow's Diner, Sarah and Marcus spent more and more time together. They exchanged messages, talked about their dreams, their injuries, and their struggles. Marcus recounted his doubts as a writer, his periods of solitude, while Sarah opened up about the wounds she kept buried, the echo of negative remarks, the fear of failure, the weight of a past made of sacrifices. One afternoon, sitting on a bench in the nearby park, Sarah confessed aloud for the first time. "Sometimes I feel like everything is against me, that I will never be strong enough to achieve what I really want." Marcus looked at her with gentleness and determination. "Strength isn't about never falling, Sarah. It's about getting up again and again, even when the world seems to be crushing you. And you get up every day." These words resonated within her, like a truth that she had always known deep down but had never dared to acknowledge. Together, they decided to take Sarah's projects further. Marcus offered to help her write her lyrics and structure her songs, while Sarah entrusted him with her melodies, her unique style, both fragile and powerful. But the road wasn't easy. Sarah also had to face the distrust of some of her loved ones who didn't believe in her dreams, financial difficulties, and above all, the constant fear of not being up to the task. One evening, after an argument with a family member, she came home upset. She wrote in her journal, "Why is it so hard to hope when everything around you seems to remind you that you're just a waitress, not an artist?" Marcus, sensing her distress, came to see her unannounced. They stayed for a long time talking, listening to the silence, until Sarah found the strength to smile again. This support, this presence, now gave her a courage she had never known. The light was reborn, gently, in the midst of the shadows. As the months passed, Sarah's music began to resonate. After spending hours refining her songs with Marcus, she managed to record a few tracks and post them on social media. The response was initially timid, but sincere. Gradually, A small circle of admirers formed, sharing her creations and encouraging her to continue. Each message, each comment was for Sarah a victory over doubt and fear. One evening, invited to perform at a local arts cafe, Sarah felt for the first time the magic of a stage that fully embraced her. Her voice, carried by passion and vulnerability, captivated the audience. Marcus stood there in the front row, his eyes shining with pride. After her performance, he hugged her and whispered, "You've taken that step many never dare to take. You're incredible, Sarah." But with this new light also came challenges. The pressure to succeed, the weight of expectations, and the fear that everything would suddenly collapse. Sarah sometimes felt overwhelmed, exhausted by this constant struggle between hope and reality. Marcus, always present, knew how to find the right words to calm her down. Never let fear steal your joy. Every note you sing is a victory. One day, as they walked together under the golden autumn leaves, Sarah confided, "You know, I used to think no one would ever notice what I had to offer. Now I'm starting to believe it's possible." Marcus smiled and replied, "It's more than possible, Sarah. It's inevitable." They knew that the road would still be long, but now they traveled it together, with trust and tenderness. The small spark at the beginning had transformed into an inner fire ready to ignite the future. A few months after her first local successes, Sarah received an unexpected invitation to participate in a regional music competition known for revealing new talents and opening doors to a professional career. A mixture of excitement and fear washed over her. She knew this step could change her life, but it could also confront her deepest doubts. Marcus remained by her side, more than ever a solid pillar in the storm. The preparation was intense. Sarah worked tirelessly, refining every detail, all the while fighting the paralyzing fear of failure. The pressure was intense, but also stimulating. On the day of the competition, in front of a packed house and a demanding panel of judges, Sarah took the stage, her heart pounding. The spotlight seemed both overwhelming and magical. She began to sing, pouring out her soul. Her voice carried everything she had been through: the pain, the hope, the resilience. The audience was captivated, silent, hanging on her notes. At the end of her performance, thunderous applause erupted. Sarah felt a wave of intense emotion wash over her, mixed with profound relief. The impressed jury congratulated her on her authenticity and power. This recognition was more than a prize. It was confirmation that her dream was not an illusion. Later, as they were leaving the room, Marcus took her hand and said emotionally, "You faced your fears and conquered your truth. I'm proud of you, Sarah." She smiled, her eyes shining, knowing that this day marked the beginning of a new chapter, one of infinite promise and possibilities. Sometimes, a single test is enough to reveal the full strength of a light. After the competition, Sarah's career really took off. Invitations to play at festivals, collaborations with other artists, and soon, the recording of her first album. But beyond success, what mattered most to her was the peace she had found deep within her heart. She had learned to love herself, to believe in herself despite the doubts and the storms. Marcus remained her loyal friend, her confidant, her anchor in times of doubt. Together, they built a strong relationship based on sincerity and respect. Sarah never forgot that little note left one evening at Willow's Diner, that simple message of hope that had lit the flame. A few years later, Sarah Mitchell had become a renowned artist, but above all a voice for those who, like her, had believed that their dreams were too fragile to exist. She organized workshops for young talents, emphasizing both technique and self-confidence. In her speeches, she often told this story. Sometimes, a simple word, an unexpected gesture can change a life. It only takes a hand outstretched in the darkness to awaken the light that lies dormant within us. His journey had become a living testament to the power of empathy, courage, and resilience. And somewhere, Marcus continued to write to her from time to time, through his texts, his encouragement, always present in her story.